Welcome to The Business of Family, the podcast where we explore the stories, challenges, and opportunities of family businesses. I'm your host, Tammy Buss, and I'm a family business survivor and also a family business advisor. In this show, we will be talking with family business leaders and experts to bring you insights and inspiration so you too can survive your family business journey. Whether you're a founder, a successor, a professional, or just curious about family businesses, this podcast is for you. So today my guest is Nathalie Rousseau. She's the co-founder and COO of ROUSSEAU Chocolatier, a Halifax chocolatier devoted to craftsmanship, community, and the flavors of Nova Scotia. She leads alongside her husband, who's a master chocolatier, Julian, whose work has really earned numerous international awards, the latest being in 2025. And together they continue to grow a company grounded in sustainable chocolate and genuine relationships, honoring the people and the places that make their work possible. So welcome, Nathalie.
Thank you very much, Tammy. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, I love this chocolate. Who doesn't love chocolate? And award winning. You're not a very old company and you're award winner. So let's just start at the beginning. So what inspired you to be a chocolatier?
Well,
other than the love of chocolate.
Yes. Well, to be honest, my whole background was in hospitality, and as I grew in my career, I became more and more within the luxury hospitality realm. And then I met Julian. So this is 18 years ago now. He was on an exchange program to Canada. He's from the south of France. And I had just moved back from living a couple of years in the Rockies, and we met, we fell in love, and he introduced himself in the beginning as a chocolatier. He was working as a pastry chef in a hotel where, in near Ottawa, where I'm from. But when he said the word chocolatier, I was like, all of a sudden, this little sparkle of magic kind of like entered my brain. And we didn't think much of it, but we started creating the foundation for a really loving relationship, one where we were both very adventurous. So we, after spending about a year in Canada together, we then traveled to the south of France, where we lived and worked together. Then we moved along to the French Alps, where again, we lived and worked together. And during these first few years, we started talking a lot about the future, a lot about what our plans were. And quite frankly, Julian had a love for chocolate, had a love for working in that realm of like working, as he calls it, in a boutique rather than a hotel or a busy restaurant. So he loved the pace, the slower pace, but also the craft of chocolate itself. And so together we started like bit by bit dreaming about one day, what if we opened our own chocolate shop? And having my background in hospitality and the love of customer service and high quality items, and I just thought this could really work. And so we the moment kind of that we put that bug in our brain, we could not stop thinking of that. So we just we worked and applied to work for chocolatiers throughout Europe. So then we moved to England. We lived in the south of England for a little while. And then we moved up to northern Scotland for a good 2 years before bringing it back to Canada. So during those last few years in Europe, we were really, for myself, trying to work together for different chocolatiers to really gain that experience, and me learning the ropes of chocolate shops. So that gave me a great insight on.
Wow, somehow I don't think of Scotland as a place to go to learn about chocolate. I don't know why that when you said Scotland, like, okay.
It was a bit of a chance encounter. There was a family that opened up a chocolate business at the very northern part of Scotland, actually, and they were serving all of the UK through postal service and had a very busy cafe and chocolate shop in the summer with a lot of tours. So it worked out really well. They hired me to be their kind of general manager of the cafe and operations, and Julian to take over production. So we did that for quite a minute, 2 years. So it was quite a long time to be so remote up there.
Yeah. Amazing. And then you brought that back to Canada and you settled in Halifax. Now, why Halifax?
Well, I wouldn't say we're analytical people, but I've lived a lot, in different places in Canada, and we just wanted to be very strategic and mindful of what our goals were. So as individuals and thinking ahead, for us, quality of life was very important. We did not want to be in a big city. We did not, we did not want to have a lot of competition around us. We wanted community. We wanted a place where we could, lay down some roots and maybe start a family. Julian, being from the south of France on the Mediterranean, it was very important that he be next to a body of water. And
With
so
snow and ice?
I mean, it narrowed it down pretty well for us, the two coasts. But, it's kind of funny when people say it's sort of strategically placed between our two hometowns of like
Right.
Ottawa and south of France. So yeah, we chose Halifax not just for those reasons. We did a lot of research for 2 years, actually. The whole time we were in Scotland, we looked at local news, local economy, what's going on, what's building the developers, what's going on, and the food scene. So we were studying all of that from afar. And believe it or not, we landed in Halifax and had never set foot here before. 2 days later, I had lined up some commercial, spots to look at. So there you have it. That was how we ended up in Halifax.
And when was that you ended up in Halifax?
2014. We were here in
2014.
very early 2014. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So, you've been working with Julian basically since you met him, right?
Yeah.
You've been traveling and working together. What has surprised you the most about working together?
I think we grew up together. We learned how to communicate excessively well to one another and to others, by association. I think we've learned how to be very respectful and mindful of staying in our lane, and also knowing when to, to bring things up that are an issue, and to do it in a way that is thoughtful and not controlling or not in any negative way, because we've obviously learned a lot along the way of what to do, what not to do. So yeah, that's for us. It's been a huge learning experience, but it served me so well in my everyday life. And now, like all these years later, being a business that now has 9 full-time employees, I would say that it really helped me grow as a leader as well. Getting those skills along, in the last 18 years.
Right. And you have young children as well, right?
We do. We have an 8-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl.
And so how do you find managing and juggling the fact that you're a mother, a wife, and a business owner, and all of that is 24 hours a day with your spouse? How do you find managing that?
I would say that, I actually feel very lucky. Very lucky. It's not always easy, but the freedom and the flexibility that having a business, running a business can allow us at this stage of life, and at the stage of our business. I think that, there have been incredible struggles, COVID being one of them. It was impossible for us. We had a toddler. I was 8 months pregnant when COVID hit. We had a whole team that were set up for success, and I was finally going to get a maternity leave. So when all of that didn't happen, it was very, very challenging, not knowing what to expect with the future, but also having a baby and then, raising a toddler with no childcare and still having a business to run. So that was, the pressures of those very, very difficult moments have taught me to really appreciate the situation we are in today. Appreciate the hard work that's gone into really saving our business and not letting COVID, ruin it.
Mhm.
And being resilient and being here and being able to take time off with my kids when they're sick, or leave early for an extracurricular activity. And I have a wonderful team that supports us as well. So I think it's a real group effort to be able to be a woman with, ambition and leading a company forward all the time, but also having the team and the right people to support me has been very, very important for sure.
I 100% agree with you. There's a lot of advantages, that flexibility. I love that as well for us when our kids were little. But it's also the scary part that you're both involved in the business, and if the business has trouble, you both have trouble. It's not like one has a secure set income with a company. So it is that, and particularly when you're first generation, right? When you're the first generation to start a business, it is a little more challenging because you're working hard, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You're
And sometimes with
juggling.
a baby strapped
Oh,
to you,
I can remember having my kids under my desk in their little rockers with my foot rocking while I was on the phone, right? It's what you do. I mean, and today they don't have to do that, but your first gen, there's a lot there, and you're learning. And I'm amazed, at how successful you've been, because it is difficult. Working with your spouse is one thing. Opening a new business is one thing, and having children is one thing. So when you put all three of those together,
Yes.
it's a challenge, and it's nice to see strong women come out on the other side. So, when you look at Rousseau Chocolatier as a legacy business, right? Because I know it just started, and it's not been, it's been 11 years, but where do you see this going in the future? And is that something that you might want to pass on?
Oh my gosh, yeah, of course. If my kids show any interest at all, I would love to bring them slowly into the business and teach them, everything that I've learned along the way, and eventually let them, take over one day. And still, I mean, if I can imagine a legacy business, I would love to be a part of that. And if we have a wonderful relationship, I'd love to, stay as long as I can involved at, whether, however much they would allow me to. But without skipping too much ahead, so I build this business day in, day out, of course, for them, for our life, but I also, the partnerships that we've created along the way with local growers and, every, like, agriculture and winemaking and everything here locally, just in the last, just more than a decade. That is also the legacy. That is the legacy to continue to grow those relationships and to merge beautiful produce or products from the earth and the people that grow them into our, very, beautifully, masterfully crafted chocolates. And to have those on a national scale, or, even an international scale, that is something that we truly hope to accomplish, because what we do here with our local partners right now, and what we've been doing for the last, 11 years, it can also be done to support growers in other parts of Canada, making, like beautiful bespoke chocolates with berries from, the certain southern part of Ontario, or, maple syrup from Quebec, just outside of Quebec City. So creating these partnerships with the products is something that I see as a legacy as well. Yeah.
Mhm. Now, I know your children are young right now, but you did a lot of traveling and gained a lot of your knowledge and experience from traveling across Canada and Europe. Now, would you encourage your kids to do that before
Oh, yeah.
coming in?
Yes. Full stop. Yes. The I've heard a lot of kind of legacy programs and ways to do things and processes for families with older children. And I would, obviously they can be involved in the business beforehand, but if ever they had any specific interest in really taking over, I would need them to go and off and see the world and see how things operate and live their life to the fullest, and get those very enriching work experiences, life experiences before coming back and taking on something that I, spend 20 plus years creating, right? So I would really want them to have that knowledge for sure. I think it's a very important step.
Well, because you've taken sort of two elements here. You've taken the fact that you are, as you said, your sort of lane is client service, providing good quality, making sure people were looked after. And your husband was all about the crafting of the chocolate and making the best chocolate with the best ingredients. So we know you know your sort of angle. Where did he get his? Like, do you actually go to school to be a chocolatier? Like,
oh, yeah. So in
it's
Canada,
like, oh, I want to make chocolates. Where do I go?
So in Europe, and specifically in France, they have a very, very robust program. It is a 5-year program, and it's chocolate making, it's pastry making, it's gelato and ice cream making, but it's a 5-year program with very in-depth teachings and techniques. And then they also have like a 2-year work term. So they take it quite seriously, as expected from France, for sure, especially for things like that. But yeah, so these are his words. He said, "I'm not good at school, so I'm going to do a trade that I think I would enjoy." And to this day, he will tell you, "No, I wasn't influenced by my father being a pastry chef. No."
Of course he was. He grew up around pastry.
So
gonna have some influence. At least his dad's going to want to take the credit for some things.
Absolutely. And he does. And it's just funny to see Julian's reaction. No, Daddy, it's not because you were a pastry chef for a very popular Parisian pastry shop. No. So he did go to school, did this. So he went into this program at 15 years old. So when I met him, they do have that kind of right away option to go into trades.
That's brilliant.
So I think that's really great too, because when you're 15 and you're maybe going into for a degree that you may not want, or anyway. So I just think it was fantastic, and allowed him to gain all the skills within 5 years, and then go and do a work term. And then he was just a very young chocolatier working his way, trying to get experiences, and then happened to come to Canada to complete that. So in his early 20s.
Wow, that's amazing. I think that's so fascinating. But back to you working with your husband, because again, this is the first generation family business, and one that is so unique and different. But where do you have boundaries? Like, how do you, when you have differing opinions on something? I know you have your own lanes, but there is definitely going to be some crossover. So how do you navigate those challenges?
So I would say that over time, like I mentioned earlier, the communication portion is critical. I can't let him make decisions that are going to hinder sales or, things like that. So we, full disclosure, we do couples therapy as a maintenance piece to as a like self-care, couples care. And a lot of that over the last few years has been around communication and how to speak to each other, and where we still have disagreements, but it's how we react to them. And I also find that I have a lot of knowledge that he may not have about marketing, about sales, about business development. And what I try to do my best is, when there is a disagreement, I try to go in and explain more context and more of what I know without necessarily, trying to sway him. I just, if we do this, these are the consequences. So there is a huge education point, point of view within the boundaries, because I can't expect him to know everything about what I do and how I think that the business is developing. And I think that, from a lot of books that I've read and things like that, I think that having that kind of superpower of someone who's really good at making pies is not very good at selling pies, right?
Yeah.
So
Oh, absolutely. An artist. Why do artists make all the money after they pass? Right? Because they're not very good at marketing while they're alive. So you have a skill set, and I think embracing each other's strengths. Because when we're so different, it's probably the best thing. Because if you're both the same, you're both going to jump off the cliff, right? So
exactly.
having that, but it also is major conflict, and that's one of the issues in family and business is that conflict. And even if you run your own lane, like he might be wanting a very, very expensive ingredient that's going to really impact because you can't charge $75 per chocolate.
Yes,
Although
exactly.
the quality is amazing. But right,
And I'm
so
sure
there's
it
that.
would sell. Yes, of
No,
course.
so there's that issue, right? Because when
Yeah,
it comes to quality and sustainability and building relationships, he is the one area he's focused on that, but then you're sort of on the business side. And so
yeah.
that's always going to cross over, right?
Yes, exactly. And to be honest, like what we've learned alongside of communication is just like give ourselves some grace. It is really hard to run a business, and it's really hard to be able to be aligned all the time. So, I remember years ago, I used to get really mad, really upset when he wouldn't understand why I'm doing what I'm doing, or why I'm going to this conference, this meeting, or like he was like this. I don't want meetings. I don't want to do all the things, but I needed to understand where he came from to understand then, okay, like he's never had to face any of this. He's from France where they do things differently, of course. And I'm of a mindset of abundance and growth. And I think that I'm self-taught on almost everything because I never went to business school. So I'm a curious person. I just need to know things. And so being able to translate what's in my mind and what I'm thinking to him was critical, because or else he can't read my mind and he has his own perception. So I think,
Hmm.
yeah, that is kind of resumes back to communication and education, I think.
Well, I know that when you're working together and you've talked about something in the office, maybe he wasn't there for that conversation, but somehow in your mind you think you've told him and you haven't, and that becomes because again you're working, 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 and you want to when you get home you have your kids and you have all the family related things to do
Yes.
that you don't get a chance to talk. And people used to say to me with my husband, well, didn't you talk about that at work? I'm like, no, I didn't get a
Oh,
chance. You just
exactly.
don't. So there's working in the business and then working on the business. And
Right.
it is very difficult because you see them all the time. You're like, I just don't want to talk to you. I just seen you all day. Even if you're in different lanes, I get that. I get
But
that.
you just said something that arised to like a thought of mine, because it does happen a lot where we don't necessarily, we think we've talked to each other but we haven't,
Hmm.
or we'll, and then that will cause a problem. Oh well, there's this big order that's being picked up tomorrow. Don't you remember I told you last week?
Yeah.
But and then there were there's hundreds of other situations where one or the other made a mistake, and we have to rally and get together and get it done, or we have to assume the mistake. And when that happened, again, years ago, I would be upset with him, or he would be upset with me, and then we would carry that resentment, and then it would follow us home. And then it's kind of like a seeping, like, roots coming in and
Hmm.
poisoning our family life. And I think so that hasn't happened, thankfully, in a really long time, because again, if I make a mistake, I know I'm not going to get yelled at or
Right.
punished by him. He's going to be like, okay, well, things happen, right? And being
We're human.
forgiving. We're human, and being forgiving, and not, because when resentment starts to sink in, it's just like any other, loving relationship. It's going to be really hard, right? So
Well,
to make
and
sure.
it's difficult for your employees and staff.
Oh yeah,
Right? If you come
absolutely.
in because he didn't make the kids' lunches and you're mad at him and they're like, "Okay, well, is she mad at me? Should I talk to her?" So, I mean, there's a big difference with running a business, a family business, and working with your spouse. I mean, we have the siblings, which is, its own issue, but working day to day alongside your spouse in a first generation is very complex because there's so many things you're doing for the first time and you're learning. you don't have someone to go to and ask for advice or to mentor like a parent who'd been doing this for 40 years, right? Now,
Yeah.
speaking of
Well,
that, with your father-in-law being in pastry, um, did Julian talk to him and get guidance and help when he was setting up the business?
oh yeah, so his family comes from a long line of entrepreneurs. So in terms of support and answering questions and anybody that we can really go to with these questions or concerns, that would have been them. It would have been his mom and his dad. They ran a campground in the south of France for like 3 decades and
Mm.
retired recently. So
With the
um,
pastry stuff at a camp, I want to go to that camp.
yeah, I mean he was a pastry chef for the first part of his lifetime, and then the second part he was just in tourism down the south of France. So they knew a lot about business. They knew a lot about family business because they ran the campground together. They had children while they were building this business. So there were so many similarities. So yes, we did use them as soundboards, or even when we were failing or succeeding, we would share that with them because they knew exactly what we had gone through, or what we were going through. So that was really nice. But like fast forward to today, for me, the number one thing that's been very, very helpful is mentors and finding community and joining, Family Business Atlantic, where, I have a peer group where everyone's in sort of a similar situation. So that is also, I think, really important to mention that, I never had that before. It's only been a few years. And I think that it's really helped us kind of navigate some other issues and bounce some other things to other people in our community that are in the same boat as us.
Yeah. Well, it's very good to share, to have peers to talk about. And to, I know my son, who, of course, we're in business together on one of our companies. And, it's nice for him to have other peers to share with, because if I tell him something, it comes from his mother. But if someone in my vintage tells him something, it comes from someone like a mentor. So there's
That's
that whole
right.
different dynamics, right? It doesn't matter what your spouse says; they're still your spouse because you're annoyed at them
Yeah.
because they didn't fold the laundry or something. But we're almost out of time. But I have one question before we get into the final questions. Is what is your favorite chocolate that you produce?
Ooh, so I have to go with my classic since day one favorite. It is called the feuilletine chocolate. It's whipped hazelnut praline with thin layers of wafer called feuilletine inside, and just has such a delicate little crunch to it, but also creamy and whipped feeling.
Mm.
Anyway, it's lovely and very
And do you
popular.
ship? Where do you ship to?
We ship across Canada and to the US at this time. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. And now I've got a craving for some of these chocolates. Anyway, so this has gone by so fast, and I'd love to talk more about chocolate. I can't wait to get back out to Halifax to actually try
Yes.
a bunch in person, not just to order them over,
Oh my goodness.
over the website. So, what three pieces of advice? I always like to end with three pieces of advice. What would you give to other families in business?
Um, so I would definitely say that uh, waking up each day, even if it's hard, try to get a mindset set around being grateful and abundance. Because if you are ready to receive love, challenges, business, busyness, conflict, like all of that, if you're ready to receive it, you can process it. And so I think being grateful is a really important practice. And that in itself, I'm always trying to be grateful every day, and it will shift your mindset. So that's one thing. I would say that as a family in business, also, if you haven't already, find your community. Find your community. Community is really going to help you as a human, as an individual, as a parent, as a business owner. So like I mentioned, we are with the FBA, but I'm also a Women Business Enterprise member and certified diverse supplier. This, these groups of people, women, family, business owners, they will help you. They are generous. People appreciate what you do, and they're going to want to help you. They're going to want to, support you. So find your community. It's really, really good for yourself, for your growth, and just take it one day at a time. That's really all you can do.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah, take it.
No, it's amazing, and I'm glad you mentioned the WEB, the Women Business Entrepreneurs, and the Family Business Centers, because I do think those are very important. Is to have both as a female, because we do have different challenges, but also as a family business. And just for listeners, there are women's programs wherever you are locally, and there's also family business centers locally, whether you're in the States or the U.S. in Europe or Canada.
Mm-hmm.
To reach out to those. So listen, if someone wanted to go take a look, what's your website?
So it's ROUSSEAU Chocolatier.ca, and you can Google that. Rousseau is spelled ROUSSEAU. And you will see all of our beautiful creations right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a real pleasure to have you come in.
Thank you so much for having me, Tammy. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you. If you like this episode, subscribe to the Business of Family podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can also find Blue Roots on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. On the next show, I'll be back with another amazing guest who will inspire you with their family business insights. Until then, take care and keep it in the family. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, tax, investment, or insurance advice. Before acting on any advice, please contact your personal or company advisors.